Do you want to learn how you can build your own React website, which allows your customers to upload images to your own S3 bucket? In this video, that is exactly what we're going to learn how to do. Hi guys, my name is Sam with Complete Coding, where our aim is to make you into the best developer that you can be. In this video, we're going to be building a React app that allows a customer to select an image off their device, and we can upload it to an API. That API is the API we built in a previous video, linked up at the top, which allows us to store that image in S3 so that we can access it and use it on our website. This has loads of really cool applications, and we'll go into some of those later. To start this, we need to create our React app, and we're going to be using create React app to do that. Inside your terminal, run npx create React app, and then the name of the project that you want to create. In our case, this is going to be something along the lines of image upload app, and hit enter. This takes a little bit of time to install and set it all up, so I'll get back to you when that is done. Now that that has finished, we can go into a VS Code instance, and what I've done is I've opened up the image upload repo that we've just created. Inside here, the first thing we need to do is npm I to install all of the dependencies so that we can then see what the default React app is and then start work on changing it to be our image upload folder. Now that that has finished installing, we can run npm start, which will build this default React app so that we can see what it looks like. So this is the default React app, and we can see that it's working, but we now need to change this to make it into our image upload project. Back inside our code, if we go into the source folder, and we need to find app.js. This is the file we're going to be using to create all of this. You could split it out into multiple files, but doing it this way is just going to be easier for now. So the first thing we need to do is delete the logo, and then to delete everything from app down to the bottom of the page. What we're going to do is we're going to replace this with our own app. So const app equals an arrow function. And then right at the very bottom, we need to say that export default app. Inside our app, we need to return the div that we want to show. So return a single div, and in that div we're going to have to start with a h1 title saying image upload website. If we save that, we can then go back into our code and see that image upload website has now been created. If we want, we can add a class name onto this, and that class name is going to be app. This just means that some of the styles are added in and that our title is centered. As well as our h1, we want to start adding some content. Now the content is going to change depending on what part of the process the customer is in. So what we're going to use is we're going to use a function called content, which is going to be passed in. We can then define that function right here. So const content is a function, and in that function we're going to do a switch on the progress. So switch on the progress, and this progress variable is something that we're going to be changing throughout this process, and we're actually going to be using React hooks to monitor the progress of the customer through the journey. And that journey is going to be waiting for an upload, them it being in progress of uploading the file, and then hopefully them successfully uploaded an image. So to use hooks inside React, we say that const progress, and we need to wrap this as an array, and with the second parameter being set progress equals use state, and we need to pass in a default state to start with. In our case, that's going to be get upload, and what we need to do is copy that and set that as the first case in our switch statement. So case equals get upload. We are going to return, for now we're going to return a div, and inside that div we're going to say please upload an image. So we're going to change this in a bit to be a different component that will allow us to update, but for now we're going to leave it as is. Once they are uploading, there's going to be another case, and this case is going to be uploading. In this case, we are just going to return a string, so return h2 of uploading, which is going to be our little loader. And then our third case is going to be when that has been uploaded, so uploaded. And we're going to display the image that has been uploaded. So return an image. That image is going to have a source, and that source is going to be set dynamically. So the URL for the image is going to be set in state similar to progress. So what we can do is use that use state, so const URL set image URL equals use state, and by default we don't have a URL, so it's going to be undefined. As well as having the source, we need to provide it with an alt, as this is required for all images, and we're going to just say this is uploaded, and then end that just like that. We're also going to have a fourth case, and that fourth case is going to be upload error. And in here, we're going to return an error message as well as the ability to upload a new image. So return, and we're going to use normal braces so that we can have a multi-line return. Because React expects every function to return one div that may have children, and we want to return two things at the same level, we need to wrap them in a fragment. So here we can now have our div of error message equals error message, And this again is going to be in state. So up here, we can say that const error message set error message equals use state. And for now, that is going to be an empty string. So as well as the error message, we also want to return the same thing as we're returning in the get upload. And then to finish off this fragment, we can just do that. If we now save it, we can go across to our website and we can see that the please upload an image is there. Now what we need to do is create this image handler and put it here as well as here so that our customers can upload an image. So if we scroll up in here, we're going to create a new component in here. So const upload component, and this is going to take some props, and then we're into the function. This is going to be relatively simple. It's going to be a form, and inside that form we're going to have a label, and that label is going to have an input. So this is where we're going to ask the customer for their URL of their API. So file upload URL colon, and then here we're going to have an input with an ID. That ID is going to be URL input. It's also going to have a type of text as well as an onChange, which for now I'm going to leave blank, and a value, and that value is going to be props.url. So this is going to be a basic input, and actually I'm going to add that onChange event, which is going to be props.onURL change. As well as the input for the URL, we actually need something to upload this image. Uploading files can be a little bit complicated, but luckily there is a React Images upload npm package. So what we're going to do is we're going to declare image uploader, and this is going to have a couple of different parameters. It's going to have a key. I'm going to set this to image uploader, if I can type properly, with icon is true, and we only want to allow customers to upload a single image at a time. So single image equals true. We also want to be able to preview the image, so with preview again is true. So here we want to only allow customers to upload images of a certain size. So we're going to add a little bit of a label, and that is going to inform them that there is a maximum size of just 5 megabytes. As well as that, we have a button that allows them to upload the image, and we can define the text for that. So button text equals choose an image. We then have an on change. So this is very similar to the on change with our input up here. So on change equals props dot on image. So this means anytime that they upload an image, we're going to call the on image prop that is passed into this component. Finally, we have to provide a list of image extensions that we're allowing the customer to upload. So image extensions equals an object in array, and this is going to have .jpg, another one of .png, and finally .jpeg. Finally, the last thing we need to do is put a limit on the maximum file size. So max file size equals 524. So the maximum file size equals 5242880, which corresponds with 5 megabytes. We can close off that component, but we need to import that. To do that, we're going to open up a new code terminal, and we're going to run npm install --save -dev, and we're going to be doing react -images -upload. We can then add this to the top of our import statement. So import image uploader from react -images -upload. So now that we have this upload component, we can input it into our main app component. So we'll copy the upload component and go down to our content. So to do this, we need to replace that basic div that we had and replace that with upload component, just like that. But this expects to receive some props, so we need to pass those in. The first one is an on URL change, and we're going to pass in a function which we're going to call on URL change. So in there, on URL change. We then have an on image, which we are going to also call on image. And finally, we need to pass up the URL that is shown once it has been set. So URL equals the URL. So now what we need to do is create these two functions, and we already have the URL from the state management. So to create these two functions, I'm going to say that const on URL change. This is going to take an event, and what we need to do is set the changed value of the URL to be the URL we used in our image URL. This can simply be done by set image URL and then pass in e.target.value. So anytime you change the URL in this input, it's going to trigger this function and set the image URL to whatever you have just typed. On a similar note, when they select an image, we need to handle that as well. So ConstOn Image, and this is going to be a async function that takes two parameters. failed images and success images. Inside here, the one that we actually care about is the success images. But before we can use that to upload our files and our images to our API, we need to know where we're going to be sending it. So if there is not a URL, then what we can do, we can console.log missing URL and change that into a string. We can then set an error message of something similar. So missing a URL to upload to. And finally, we need to set the state. So set progress, and we want to set the progress to upload error. That will mean that this set new div will be returned, which will show the error message. In this, we now want to return so that we don't do any other logic inside this function. If we've passed this point, then we are ready to start uploading our code and our image to our S3 bucket. So here we can set the progress, and this time it's going to be uploading. This will show that uploading text, which will be shown until we change the status. Now we get to the more interesting part, which is uploading this image to our API. Because this is a little bit more complicated, we're going to wrap it all in a try catch. Just like that. And inside our try, the first thing we need to do is check out what this success images looks like. So console.log success images equals success images. If there's an error, console log error in upload, and then the error. And we can also set the progress to be an upload error and set an error message. So set error message to be error.message, and we need to set the progress to be upload error. So now we need to scroll up to our component, and we just need to change the brackets that are around this from curly brackets to normal brackets. That just means that the component is going to return all of this form as the return value, whereas with the curly brackets, there was no explicit return. So now that we have saved that, we can go into our browser and we see that we have our upload component here. If you inspect on this, I'll zoom in a little bit, we can see that we have this form, which is our component for our upload. We have a label, which contains an input, and then we have our file uploader. If I go into the console and clear this out, then as I type in here, it will add this to our state, which then becomes the value for the URL stored. We can then choose an image, pick a image and hit open. It's going to go into that uploading state, but then nothing else is going to happen because we haven't programmed anything else to happen inside this. So it's hitting this upload, it's console logging out, and then it's finishing. What we can see is on the right hand side, we have our success images. This is an array and it has a string with all of the data we need. It has the name of the data, so that is a L6 dynamo get.png. It has the file type, which is image PNG, and then it has the base64 data, which is the data of the image. What we can do is we can use this string and do some logic on it to break those parts away and then use them to hit our API. So inside our code, we can now add some extra logic. So const parts equals success images. We only want the first index, or the 0th index, should I say. And then we want to split on a semicolon, because as you can see, after the data type and the name, there is a colon splitting these three values. With the parts, we can now get just the name. So const mime equals part 0. So this is the first part, which is data images / PNG. And we only want to keep a little bit of that. We only want to keep the image PNG. The way we can do that is by splitting on the colon and taking the second part. So split on a colon and take the second part, which is index 1. We can do the same thing for name. So that's going to be parts 1. And again, split. This time, we're going to be splitting on an equals. And this is one of the reasons that we console logged out this here, because it allows us to see that the first time with the mime type, it uses a colon. When it's doing the name, it uses an equal sign. And here, because we want the actual value, we want to get, again, the first index. Finally, we want the data, and that is just parts 2, which is the last section of that success images string. Now that we have all of that, we can actually do our post. So const res equals await axios.post, and we're going to be posting to the URL, because we know it has been set. As well as that, we need to then post up an object with the mime, the name, and then the image, which is just going to be the data. Now that we have made the Axios request, we actually need to import Axios. So start by going into your terminal and doing npm install --save -dev, and it is Axios. We can then go to the top of our file and import Axios from Axios. Now that we have made the request, we need to get the data back and set the image URL. So set image URL, and we want to set that to res.data.image URL. And finally, we want to set the progress to uploaded. And what this will do is it will change the switch statement in our content to show that image just like that. So if we save this file and go over to our image upload website, so now we need to paste in the URL from our last video where we created our own image upload API. We can then choose an image. And if I choose an image just like this, hit open, it's going to upload it and then display that. If we actually inspect on this image, we can see that it is actually pointing to my image upload bucket demo SWS, and then that is a randomly generated UUID, but this is a publicly accessible photo inside my S3 bucket using the API built in the last video. Whilst this works perfectly if we upload to a valid URL, if we refresh this page, we can try uploading it, but this time instead of putting a valid file upload URL, just hit the keyboard. We can then upload an image, and this time we get to this page. So this is the error state where we get a request failed with a 404, which is as you'd expect because the URL I typed wasn't a valid URL. In this case, we want to change this please upload an image to the upload component so that they can retry their upload. To do that, if we go back into our code, we can go down to here to our upload error. And what we need to do is replace this please upload an image and add this component upload, and we can just copy all of that, replace it there and hit save. Now when we go into our app, if we enter a random URL, upload an image, we get error message fails request with a 404, and our file upload is there again, which means we're allowed to retry and continue the process. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and have learned something new. To help me make the best content possible, I've created a short 2-minute survey that is linked in the description below. It'd really help me out if you can fill that out so I can make the videos that are going to help you become a better developer. In this video, we've learned how we can create a React app using our own custom components and React hooks to store the data when a customer uploads an image and then send that up to our API, which can save it in S3. This now means you can take this logic and implement it into your own React website to allow your customers to upload their own images. This can be used for profile pictures, or if you want customers to have a portfolio of images, or even just allowing customers to upload images as part of a product review process. If you've learned something new in this video, it'd really help me out if you give it a like, as it helps share this video to more developers just like yourselves. And if you haven't done already, make sure to subscribe down here and turn on the bell notification so that you get notified next time I upload a video on how to do things with serverless.